this video, we're going to talk about the different categories and classifications of cruise ship staterooms.
There are 4 main stateroom types on a cruise ship. Interior staterooms, which have no windows, ocean views, which might have a porthole or a window, a balcony stateroom, sometimes called a veranda, and a suite. And within each of these, there are several different categories, which we'll discuss in a moment. And it's important to note too that with all of these stateroom categories, those that include a window or a balcony, you want to make sure you know the distinction between an obstructed view versus a non-obstructed view, because that can be a difference too. Interior staterooms are the most affordable and suites are obviously the most expensive. So when you go to book a cruise, you'll have to decide your preferred room type and your budget. All have pros and cons, of course, and the most expensive room types will be the most luxurious, and they'll sometimes come with even additional perks or amenities. Suites, for example, sometimes include benefits like priority check-in, special expedited lines at guest services, and speedier disembarkation. As you book a cruise, you'll need to decide your must-haves and consider your budget. Now, you may later have an opportunity to change your room type if you change your mind and pay the price difference, but it's not a guarantee as inventory is limited. So if you have a certain room type that you've got to have, I encourage you to just go ahead and book it initially. You may also have the opportunity to upgrade your room prior to your sailing. Many cruise lines make random upgrade offers where they'll call or email you and offer you a better stateroom category for a fee. But I don't like calling this an upgrade because you're paying for it. So it's more of an upsell. You're not getting anything free, you're paying for it. And I've seen a lot of circumstances where it's not a good deal at all. Some cruise lines approach this a little differently. Royal Caribbean, for example, has a Royal Up program where cruisers can go in and actually bid on a higher stateroom category. Now let's talk about stateroom categories. If choosing your stateroom type is not confusing enough, you'll also need to decide your stateroom category within that type. What I mean by that is an interior stateroom is not just an interior stateroom. There's a bunch of different categories of interior staterooms, and the cruise line usually distinguishes between these by using letters and numbers. Certain categories might have better features, like more square footage or a better location on a ship or an open view versus an obstructed view. When a cruise line offers a free stateroom upgrade promotion, this can be confusing, and it confused me for a while, so I like to cover this. But when they make those free upgrade promotions, you might assume, okay, I have an interior stateroom, so if I book under this promotion, I'm gonna get an ocean view for the price of an interior. No, it's a little confusing and a little misleading. That just means that you're gonna get a better category within that stateroom type. I'll give you an example. Carnival Cruise Lines has a 6A ocean view stateroom category. And if you get a free upgrade, that might take you to a 6B ocean view. Not much of a difference. So these promotions can sometimes be a good deal, but it's a little misleading. Another consideration of stateroom category is whether you're willing to do a GTY or a guaranteed stateroom. GTY or guaranteed staterooms are almost always going to be your most affordable option because what this means is that the cruise line is going to select your stateroom for you after you make your booking. And sometimes they don't assign that until a few days before your cruise. Now, this category is almost always going to be the cheapest option, and that's beneficial, but there's a little bit of a risk. Now, with a guaranteed stateroom, you sometimes hit the jackpot, and the cruise line ends up putting you in a better stateroom category, but at the lower price for what you originally booked. All they're saying with a guaranteed stateroom is we're guaranteeing you a room based on the category you bought. Now, while you sometimes get a better room, sometimes you end up in an undesirable room, like an undesirable location on the ship, like being put in a stateroom that's underneath the ship's nightclub where you're listening to pounding bass all night. Using your own stateroom gives you more control. You can look up the deck plan, see what's around it, and pick the room that is best for you. Now, depending on your needs, some staterooms may be preferable to others. While I don't like being in a room near the Lido deck because I think it's really noisy, some cruisers love it because they want to be right there in the middle of where the action is. I always encourage cruisers to consider their individual needs and then search and examine their ship's deck plan. You can find these online, you can see where all the locations are, and figure out what areas you want to be near and what you want to avoid. That is, unless you book a guaranteed stateroom, in which case you have no control over where your stateroom location will ultimately be.